Alright, welcome to the second video of this three-part series about doing a high momentum build. We have the bow here all set up. It's a Bowtech Realm X. We got all the things on it, and this next part is going to be putting together the arrows. So we chose the Momentum TDT 240s. It's my shaft of choice. You guys have seen my other videos. I use Momentum TDTs for just about everything. And so I'm just pretty much going to be going through how I put these together. I did clean the shafts already. I dirtied a few Q-tips. We got them all cleaned up. Everything's good. Acetone, it's pretty standard. Then I'm going to be choosing hot melt. So this is the hot melt off of the Grizzlystik website. You can get it. What I like about it, I don't even remember the brand name, but it's there. What I like about it is that it stays elastic even in the cold. Pretty much it's the only hot melt glue I've ever seen that does that. So I've used this in obviously all my arrows, and I live up in Minnesota. Wisconsin's where I go to college, so it gets pretty cold, and I've never had like a failure in cold weather, and that's something that a lot of guys seem to say about hot melt, and that's why they go with the epoxy route. But I really like this because then I can remove things from my shaft and put it back in later on, like if I'm going to use brass or if I'm going to use no brass. So today I'm just going to be putting one shaft in with the brass and one in with no brass, and I'll just kind of show you guys the different approach that I take on each. So just keep that in mind. And then I have some water over here for after I heat up the glue and heat up the insert, and I put it on the shaft, press it, and I put it in water. One of the misconceptions that I do want to address right off the bat is that no, I'm not going to wreck my shafts using hot melt. The important part is to do it correctly, because obviously anytime you do something wrong, things can go wrong. So we want to keep this on track. I'm going to show you guys how I do it. If you follow how I do it, I pretty much promise you're not going to wreck an arrow, because never will the flame ever touch the arrow. It's not going to touch anything but the component. So that is, I just need to say that right off the bat, it's going to be most important. Never put your arrow shaft in an open flame. Even if you're going to be removing these from your arrows, it's just flat out not necessary. So we'll start, and the first one I'll put in will be no brass. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is take my hot melt and I'm going to start heating it up. And I'm going to get it, and as it gets a little bit softer, I'm going to be putting it at the very tip of this. So I have everything towards the tip, and the important part is that is when I push, it's going to push all the glue up into the very tip of this sleeve, of the factory bonded sleeve. So now that I have it all painted on where I want it nice and evenly, now I reheat it. And make sure that it's all nice and liquidy, and then I just slip it on, twisting, and then I press, and then I put this in the water. Scoot it over here for you guys. Put it in the water, and I just kind of rotate it just because it creates a little bit of flow. I feel like it makes a difference. It probably doesn't. Tip it off, and it's as easy as peeling this little donut off. That's the extra glue, and then you're done, and everything is, I can tell it spins great. Now for the brass, it's basically the same thing, except instead of painting it just a little bit on the black, I'm going to move up towards the brass. Now you can also use Loctite and just do it on the black aluminum section of this, but I just like to think that I have glue all up into even the part that I screwed in. It's just something that I personally like. Something to keep in mind is the way that you're rotating it. So if I put it in there and then I start rotating this around and I don't have any type of glue, I could possibly unscrew this. So when you put it in, just make sure that you're screwing towards yourself and the arrow away to make sure that you'd be turning this brass part to the right to be tightening it up. So that's the way we want to rotate. We don't want to unscrew it. So here I go. I'm going to start painting at the top, paint a little section, and then I'll have enough glue on there to push down the outsert, and then that's going to obviously stuff it up into the sleeve. Alright, so I have enough glue on there, and it's pretty much going to be the same process. I'm going to heat it up a little bit, and then press it in while rotating, and then press. Make sure I press straight, and I'll go right into the water. Now, something else to keep in mind, I'll turn this off for you guys. Something else to keep in mind is that if you guys have a whole bunch of brass, obviously, it's going to be a complete bear to try and push a whole bunch of glue down. It's going to end up probably stacking on the end of the arrow, and you're not going to get enough glue where you want it. So if you're using, I'd say, more than 2 50 grain ones, like if you're going to add another one, you're probably going to want Loctite. You can get away with a 50 and a 20 and still do what I just showed you, but if you're going to have 100 grains of brass behind your 70 grain insert outsert, probably just Loctite the threads on those and then just paint at the top of that first brass, and then it can push the glue down kind of as I showed you. So that's just something to keep in mind. So then on this one, I'll just kind of rip this donut little excess glue off, and we have 2 bear shafts that are full length that we will be tuning to that bow that we just set up, and as we go then we'll probably just be trimming from the back. That's the nice thing about the TDT, is that it has a constant internal diameter, so now I can cut from the back. It's easier tuning. I just have to pop the knock out, go on the saw and do it, and it's super simple. The only thing you'll probably need is obviously the saw, but then I always recommend the arrow squaring device, and as long as you have an arrow squaring device, these won't cut any different than a parallel shaft. The last thing I want to show you guys in this video is going to be removing your inserts out of the Grizzlystik shafts. I'm just going to heat a field point and I'm going to pull it out. So that's going to be the last thing I'm going to show you. Alright, so now taking them out, I still have a little bit of water just because I will still dip my arrow in there, but I have a field point on now. The important thing about this is where people get it wrong. I'm not ever putting the arrow in the flame. I don't care if you have a candle, a torch, lava. Like, don't put the arrow in the flame. You're gonna wreck it. Just heat the field point. I choose a 200 grain almost every time because it gives me enough spacing. I don't have to worry about like me actually heating up any, even like the aluminum factory bonded insert outsert. Like, I don't want to heat that up either. I only want to heat the field point, and it won't take long. So we'll start heating this up, and you'll give it a couple seconds. I rotate it just because I like to spin things around, I guess. And then I'll just check it every once in a while because I want this to be able to pull out and when it's as cool as possible. The other thing to keep in mind, so I'm not quite ready. The other thing to keep in mind, again, so I didn't Loctite this brass. So I need to be mindful of the way that I'm rotating it, otherwise I will unscrew the brass and it will stay inside that arrow. Obviously I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to have to rotate the arrow to the right, field point to the left while I'm pulling out. Just like that. She's slowly coming out, and I can see like it's not even close to being as warm as it was when I had put this on. So I'm okay with dropping this just on my cloth. This is just going to dip in the water, and it's probably cooled down by now, and that's all she wrote. That's how I remove it. Now I can go to work. I can put brass in there. I can do whatever I need to do to my arrow. If you're someone that's going to cut from the front, you can go ahead and cut from the front. So thank you guys for tuning into video number 2. That's pretty much all it is just kind of the complex areas of dealing with the Grizzlystik shaft. But now on video number 3, it's going to be the most important part. That's going to be tuning it. So we're going to take these arrows, full length, bare shaft, and we're going to tune it up to the Bowtech, and we're going to see how things fly, and hopefully we get perfect broadhead flight by the end of it. Thank you guys for watching.